So when I left off with this before, it was a couple weeks ago, and I had worked on it kind of in the darker, and I missed a whole bunch of spots. So now I'm going back and I'm filling in to make sure I get all the empty spots. It's gonna probably look a little wonky and not as fluffy as this one here, but that's what happens when you make mistakes and you do things in the dark. I don't know, I think that's a little bit of a metaphor for how sometimes we live our lives a little bit in the dark. We just keep plowing on and not taking into consideration the consequences of actions. You know, I'm an artist, and to get my supplies, I go to the store and I consume things. As much as I like to make stuff from scratch, the scratch items I'm getting are marketed items. They come from places like Michael's and Joann's when I'm impatient. But then there's things like this wool, this silk wool blend that I'm using. I actually got from a smaller company that sources their material conscientiously. So I can still be an artist and I can still create without having to go to Joann's and buy things out of the shiny packages there. You know, this frame that I bought from a maker in Russia. Now, there's political boundary issues with that too, but I did buy it before the whole... I can't punish the artist in Russia and the craftsmen in Russia necessarily for their government's actions. I can do my best. That's all I can do. And that's all any of us can do. You know, living our lives in conscientious mindfulness to our environment and to what's going on with Mother Earth and the damage that we do to her by our consumerism. And I'm just as guilty as everybody else. You know, I'm trying to do better. I'm making my own clothes. Part of that is artistic creation. Part of that is necessity. Part of that is choice. I'm being careful with what I consume. I'm trying to be careful about making things that will last longer, be more suited to me. You know, I'm not out buying a new blouse or a new sweater every season that's the most in-mode thing to wear. You know, I was kind of an outlier in junior high and high school because as much as I really did want to belong and fit in and wear what everybody else was wearing, my family situation wasn't conducive to me having all the things my friends had, you know. When all my friends were wearing Guess jeans and Keds and, you know, the fancy fashionable things, I wasn't. And that made me resourceful and pushed the boundaries of my personal expression quite a bit. I mean, I wore bell bottoms from the 70s and dug out some of my mom's clothes that she made and wore back in the 60s and 70s, and I wore them with pride. And I challenged the social norms of my age group in southern Alabama, of all places. And you don't do that in the Bible Belt. You don't challenge churches and beliefs and cultures from the Bible Belt. You just don't do it. You become ostracized. You're the outsider. You're the one that doesn't fit in. And I didn't fit in. I didn't fit in at all. I didn't belong. But I did find respite and peace in the art room and with my art friends and with some of the oddball creatives that I did hang out with. The math and science geeks, even though I was epically bad, still am epically bad at math, not my forte. But I hung out with people that it was, and I was okay. And they didn't treat me poorly because I couldn't do the math that they could do. But it also taught me that, and reinforced for me that I am different, yes, but I'm not dumb. And my artistic expression is very much a part of who I am, and my life and how I choose to do things is valid. And everybody needs that reinforcement. We all need that validation in our communities. You know, the fire that burns within us is all a little different, but yet it's all the same because we are together in this human community on Earth. And we belong to Mother Earth and her sentience. She has welcomed us to live within her ecosystems. And she takes care of us, and the plant people take care of us, and the animal people take care of us, and the elemental people take care of us. And too many times, our society and our culture, especially Western culture, especially Puritan, patriarchal culture, does not support the idea that we are all in this together and we are all part of this wheel. Instead, that patriarchal, capitalistic culture of consumerism reinforces self, not together, not community, but individuality. And it does not reinforce that there are many species, many peoples, having many forms in this earth that have valid rights of expression and care and are here to do and fulfill their gift duties to each other. You know, I've been looked at like I was definitely teased quite a bit when I was in high school about being a little bit of a hippie, a little bit of a granola. It was not a kind compliment when someone told me that. And I knew it. But I would turn the other cheek, so to speak, and embrace it. And I have always embraced that my sensitivity to my environment, now we know autism and sensory processing, which I didn't know at the time, is what it was called, makes me the canary in the coal mine for the rest of my human species, the rest of my brothers and sisters. And my voice is valid, and my ability to see and pay attention to what others can't see and can't pay attention to or don't want to is valid. And I need to use my voice more. And, you know, I found that a couple years ago, I did daily devotions on my Facebook channel. And then I also put them on YouTube, on this channel. And I really didn't have any designs or goals. I just needed to have accountability for myself for what I was doing, and I knew that the daily devotions would help me, and I had hoped that they would help others, and I know that they did. But then I listened to the voice of patriarchal capitalism and rubrics within YouTube and the preachy demands of the algorithm that say you're not going to be heard unless you specialize your channel, unless you pick a niche and work there, and unless you do it this way and do it that way, you're not going to get anywhere. And so I created a different channel, and I thought, okay, well, I'll put it under my business name, and I'll keep my daily devotions focused on, my health coaching and my spiritual work and my readings, and that part of my life I will compartmentalize. The kicker with compartmentalization is it can be a good thing, right? I compartmentalize all the time. My work, my day-to-day job, I compartmentalize, and I work very hard every day at masking to function in my job, to provide good customer service, and run a couple $1 million business, a hotel here in my little town. And some days I do really good at it, and some days I'm not so good at it. But I've made the company money. I have worked at turning the business around, and I've been pretty good at it. So we got interrupted, and I'm really not sure where I left off, but where I was going with that, I think, is that I mask and I pretend and I compartmentalize at work. And I think inadvertently, following the advice of YouTube channels, successful YouTube channels and algorithms and all this other advice, and compartmentalizing my work, I think that I've added to my anxiety and frustration about creating content, and creating content that matters to me. And I am very passionate about the earth. I'm very passionate about helping people. I'm very passionate about finding reasons for things and ways of living life that are more attuned with my purpose for other people. I'm a carer, and I know that. My purpose is to care for people and lift them up and catalyze change and help them find their dreams and their purposes moving forward as part of a community, as part of the species, as part of this ecosystem that we live within. We live within the bosom of Mother Earth. We live in her home. We live within her living consciousness, this earth. And we are supposed to be symbiotic caregivers for her planet, for her home, her life. And I'm very, very passionate about that. I also know we have to live our lives where we have food and shelter, and I kind of like living in a house with electricity, but I also know that we can live fulfilling lives in homes that don't have 6 computers and 4 televisions going at the same time, and that to live a fulfilling life, you don't have to spend $100 at Target every other day because you're trying to fill a void of absence, because you're disconnected from your community. And your community is the community of plants, of animals, of the elements, of the native species that live within this earth. We've tried to tame Mother Earth to fulfill an ideal of falsity and pretend that is corrupt and damaging and harmful to her welfare and to our welfare. We are killing ourselves. We are hurting Mother Earth, and we are hurting ourselves. You know, I've had a chronic illness my whole life. I've had asthma. I also have had other illnesses that have come up since then. And I had a doctor tell me a couple of years ago, actually, she says, I don't understand how you're as sick as you are. You're really sick, but you still work, you still live your life, you still are able, for the most part, to function. How do you do that? And I had a lady right about the same time make a comment. She said, you know, I can't work, I can't do anything anymore, and I don't understand how you have the exact same illnesses that I have, and you're able to work, you're able to do all these things. And I told both of them, I was like, well, my life is not your life. My path is not your path. And there are similarities, absolutely. But my path has taken me on a path also of recognition that I am not, and I didn't tell them this part, but I just told them that my journey is not their journey, and our paths are different, and they're supposed to be, right? But I've reflected on those comments on and off through the years since then. Why am I able to do so much, and why does it seem so hard for others to do the same? And I think fundamentally, yes, my first reason is the most accurate. My journey is not their journey. But I think there's another layer in that. I remember walking in the woods. My parents owned 10 acres, and it's a really long rectangle. And I spent hours and hours walking in the woods, talking to the trees and the grass and the spiders, and holding the lizards and the salamanders, and really listening to the quiet that wasn't quiet, listening to the wind and the crackle of the leaves and the trees talking to one another. And I would listen to the water in the creek at the base of our property sing and talk and commune with all of the other creatures in that area. And it was the most amazing, connected experience. And I remember my guide and I having a moment of, this is really important. This feeling, this connection, I'm going to have to carry that with me. And I'm going to have to lean on it when I don't have woods to hang out in and trees to hug and the community of Mother Earth's peoples in all of the shapes and forms that they have. I may not have that tangible connection all of the time, because I did choose a life path where for some time I've had to live in a square box life. I know it's not forever. I know it's not always in this life. I just know that it's necessary for long stretches of time. And I took that energy and I took that love and that respect and that reciprocity from Mother Earth, and I took it into my heart. I took it into my soul. I took it into the electrical body of my flesh sack that I inhabit in this life. I took it in and I held it safe, and I have treated that nugget as sacred in my body. And though my body is the canary in the coal mine with mold and toxins and bad things in food, it has been my whole life, I also hold near and dear to me the love and the nurturing that Mother Earth gave me. She gave it freely, and her creatures, my co-inhabitants within her consciousness, within this realm that scientists call the planet Earth, I hold it sacred, and I hold every connection with other entities within her sphere. I hold each one of them as sacred. I hold each one of them as a piece of her and sacred. Each one of those encounters means something. You know, I've got birds living in the vent, the air vent of the bathroom upstairs, and every year there's a nest of them. And every year I think, you know, that's really not a good place for them. And they need a nesting box. And every year I think, okay, I'm gonna go get one at the end of the season. I'm gonna put one up, and then I don't. And this year we have Astra. She's our beautiful little kitty companion that has chosen to adopt us and be part of our family. I have watched her, interestingly, not be obsessed about the birds in the vent as like a cat hunting prey, but she only gets upset when she can hear the babies wanting food. Other times, when they've been fed and they're sleeping, she doesn't even get upset. It doesn't bother her that the mom and dad are going in and out of the vent. She only gets upset when they're hungry and they're chirping for, you know, worms and food. And it reminded me this year that, you know, it's probably not good that they're in the vent, and I should probably take care of that by getting a box for them, and I will. But this year, I think there was a reminder to me that until I get that box, until I have a place for them to have a home, it's okay that they're in the vent. And all Mother Earth's creatures look out for one another. And we have a responsibility to look out for all of her creatures too. We have a responsibility to stop thinking of every time we need something going to Walmart or Target and buying another thing. Do you really need that thing? What's it made of? Is it useful? Does it matter? You know, I quit buying paper towels about, 20 years ago, because I don't need to kill a tree to wipe up some water. I can use fabric. I can use recycled clothes. I don't need fabric softener to make my clothes soft. I need to buy clothes that are natural fibers and not use synthetic. I need to make better choices. I need to make good choices about where I get my food. I need to make good choices about how I care about the animals and the people and the trees and the plants. They are all sentient beings within Mother Earth. You know, when I teach my class on stones and crystals, every once in a while I get the one student that says, I just can't feel it. I'm not picking up on what you're picking up on. That's okay. Slow down and listen. It will come. But maybe your gift is more towards the plants. Maybe your gift is not the stones. I hear the singing of Mother Earth in every natural thing. And I can feel the blankness and the wrongness of things that are not. It makes me tear up. And I get a little cryy about it because it's sad. That absence feels wrong and it feels empty and sad. Even metal has a feel to it. Metals have a vibration. Stones have vibrations. Fibers have vibrations. There's a lot of really good science that's proving what those of us who have known our whole lives about the connection of the electrical systems within the body and how we are connected to Mother Earth and her electromagnetic fields. It matters. Science is catching up. We have divorced ourselves from the connection to Mother Earth by relying on I'm going to back that up. Science is important. We have vaccines, we have cures, we have diagnosis criteria, we have I'm a really good example. I wouldn't be alive today if science wasn't the way science is, to a certain extent. But I've been talked to by a scientist who basically told me it was all in my head, and then years later found, you know what? It's not in my head. I am a neurodiverse human being, and it's not a fit of imagination. It's how my brain is wired. It is how my electrical body is put together, and it's valid and it's right. Science is good, but science also needs to be balanced with the knowledge that just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not there. That's really kind of how science came about, isn't it? How somebody asked the questions, but why? Has anybody ever been around that 5-6-year-old child who asks, why? But why? But I want to know why. That why is a mantra in my head. Why is it this way? I can accept it and I can know that it's there, but I kind of want to know why. I spent a good chunk of my life knowing 100% that I was different and that I could hear things and feel things, and I was sensitive to my world in ways that other people around me were not. And I wanted to know why. And I never stopped looking. I tried to accept. I went through phases where I seemed to kind of fake it pretty good, but then it would fall apart because I am not like everybody else. I have autism. I am legitimately neurodiverse. And that makes my why seeking so much more important. And I want to know why we as a human species and why scientists can't get back to the roots of where they come from and asking why and accepting the diverse answers and continue to ask why. And be okay with the answers, even if they're hard, And even if they don't always make sense to start with, that doesn't mean they're not valid. Asking why is important, but also acknowledging that sometimes you might not have the answer to why for a really long time. Hell, I've been in my 40s before I knew the answer to some of my whys. I knew there was something, but I didn't know the why. And it's hard. Coming to terms with my autism and my ADHD has been really hard because I'm also having to overcome preconceived ideas of perceptions of autism and ADHD from 20, 30 years ago in the medical and mental health community. And I am battling every day to be at peace with my difference and also to educate the people around me that I can do my job. But my accommodations aren't because I need a box to reach a shelf that's too high because my arm is damaged. My accommodations need to be mental health accommodations. Time, space, and help. I kind of went all over the place, but this is kind of how turkey work works, right? You go all over the place. So I'm getting them nice and tight this time on this paw. And I'll trim these down and I'll make a nice little fluff. It's gonna be really messy, but I think I learned from this one and all the fluff over here that I need to just do all the turkey work and then come back and cut it. So until next time, I think I'm gonna change my channel format a little bit again, but I think it's gonna be better. Better for me, better for the world, and better for those that I really want to help. Have a blessed day, my friends.